think it is. Okay, good. Okay. Hi, Tracy. Good morning. All right, let me get caught up on the chat and see what I missed. Good morning. You were homeschooled until middle school yourself. Oh, cool. Yeah, a lot of folks that I know who homeschool, they definitely do it, um, from like elementary to middle school, and then the kids go to like public school for high school. That's pretty common. All right, y'all. Let me grab the stuff from the homeschool expo, and we'll do a little show and tell. All right. Now, make sure I'm good. Okay, good. So let me see where do I want to start. Okay, so first of all, like I said, I went to the Homeschool Expo here in Georgia. It was hosted in Atlanta. So let me say, if you are in the Southeast and if Atlanta is like a 3-hour-ish drive for you or less, I think it's worth going to. I spent the entire time in the exhibitors hall. I didn't even go to any of the speeches, but you can. Like, it's definitely like if you can do both days, I would say knock yourself out, do both days. I look at it almost like my version of professional development. So, like if you if you know teachers or you have teachers in your life, they talk about their professional development over the summer. This homeschool expo is that for me. And like I said, I spent the entire time in the exhibitors hall, and I still didn't get to every table. That's how many people were there, and I was there for probably 5 hours easily. I did spend like an hour and a half chatting with some other homeschool families that I met. So I wasn't like going table to table to table the entire 5 hours. But I saw mom. I saw. I just I just had a good time going from table to table. So anyway, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I picked up. I don't have all the freebies because my kids, as soon as I came in, they were like picking. Picking. Hey, Adrian, how are you? Good to see you here. Oh, good. Ask any questions that you guys have though still, and definitely also put them in the house, or not the house, in the QA. I don't know why I said house. Yes, it was a Southeast Homeschool Expo that I went to. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I picked up from the tables. Like I said, some of the freebies, like the fun little things, my kids have taken them and they're gone. Like Time for Learning was there, and they were giving out these little light up Mickey ears. They light up like blue. There were lots of like bags that were given out. So lots of freebies that I don't have here. How do you figure out what curriculums to use? Okay, good question. So the first thing you're going to want to think about is what subjects you want to teach. Like your state might require some, where you can start there with the state law to see like what subjects are required for your state. But then from there, you yourself can just make a list of what subjects do you want to teach. A lot of the companies, the bigger companies, they were giving out these things that say scope and sequence. You could also Google that phrase, scope and sequence, for whatever grade your kid is going to. And like, for example, this is grade 6 scope and sequence from BJU Press. And it goes through and tells you like what things ought to be taught for that grade. And then you as the parent can just kind of go through and highlight and say yes to this, no to that. Whatever you think is most important. But that's how you would start in terms of figuring out the subjects that you want to teach. And then once you figure out the subjects that you want to teach, then you would just find resources that would support that. Whether you are getting an all-in-one curriculum, which y'all, my stance on all-in-one curriculums has slightly changed. I used to be very much like, nah. But that's for me. I'm still like, nah, for me. But if you guys saw the video that I made where it was like the Friends theme song, I made that specifically for my cousin who is thinking about getting into homeschool. And she is someone who would 100% benefit from an all-in-one curriculum because, she has a lot going on. So for her, an all-in-one curriculum where you just buy everything, pay once, and be done with it would probably be ideal for her. So I have a much like more open-minded to all-in-one curriculums. But anyway, Adrian, getting back to your question just about how you figure it out. If your kids are, a little bit older, I would ask them. I'm always a big proponent of asking your kids their opinion of what they think of what you're bringing in, and then just try things out. A lot of companies were giving out free trials. This one specifically is from Teaching Textbooks. So you can just try out some different curriculums. This one's specifically for math. And you can just try things out and just see how it goes. You said, is it expensive? It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Like this one I just held up is Teaching Textbooks. They start at math level 3, and it's $43 for the year. So that's not expensive. And they come with the free trial. Now it goes up a little bit. So like the high school is more expensive. It's $67 for the year. But again, not expensive when you're looking at it all, in total for the expenses. Okay, let me go back. Good morning. And y'all, if I missed your question in the chat, please do type it in the QA. That makes it easier to see and go back to. How does homeschool prepare for the SAT or ACT? Usually you just buy a book that is an SAT prep book or ACT prep, or you could pay for your child to attend a class. Same way public schoolers do it. You would just pay for the book and have your kid take it at home, or you could have them enroll in a class. What needs to be done to actually get the diploma for those who just are needing grade 12? Depends on your state. In Georgia and in other states like Georgia, you create it. You, as the parent, create the transcript once they've completed the requirements. And then you could order a diploma from anywhere that makes or prints diplomas. Can you share the link for Georgia teaching the breakdown on what they're teaching? Yeah, that's georgiastandards.org. georgiastandards.org. Your homeschooling until middle school helped you with some practical life skills. Okay, good. Okay, and I think that was a repeat question. How do they prepare? Yeah, a book or a course. What is the best session you attended? I actually didn't go to any of the sessions, Tiffany. I spent the entire time in the exhibitors hall. And that was, if I had gone back the second day, I probably would have tried to attend a session, but I just spent the whole time looking at all the vendors. You're interested in homeschooling your kids. Oops, gosh, I hate when it snaps down to the bottom like that. You're interested in homeschooling your kids ages 3 to 1. Where can you start? Oh, sweet. So I would just start with like the basics, ABC, 1, 2, 3, shapes, colors, numbers. You could introduce spelling their name if, depending on how motivated your toddlers are. But yeah, just the basics there. You don't have any paperwork to do, and I wouldn't recommend that you jump into a workbook. You could definitely invest in some little manipulatives that can have like a multi-use purpose, like counting and sorting and patterns. But yeah, that's where I would start. And then also, yeah, just reading. You can't read enough to a kid that age. Reading is essential for every other skill. You were told your child could get IEP services at home. Some states do. Yeah, some states and school districts will allow that. I don't have any personal experience with that. But there are some folks on the Rolodex list in my profile. If you want to go check that out, BStanceK, to see what they're doing. But it's going to depend on your state and your school district. But yes, that is possible. For South Carolina, you just need a certain amount of credits. Was that relating to the high school diploma question? Because yeah, every state is going to be a little bit different when it comes to the graduation, like diploma requirements. What are your thoughts on Abeka? You've been using that for 2 years. Hey, if you like it, keep it going. I don't have any experience with Abeka. Okay, I just answered that one. I don't have any experience with Abeka. Did they get, I don't even know if I stopped at their table because I was just like, yeah, seen it, got it. And they do send me a homeschool catalog every year, but I've never used them. I personally am not a fan of the all-in-one for my family, but I understand like it's important and useful for other families. So I haven't personally used a Becca at all. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I don't shade. I don't know anything about home IEP services from a personal standpoint, but like I said, in the Rolodex in my profile, I do share. There's other homeschoolers on that list who are also on TikTok and share and answer questions on homeschooling. And everyone on that list, by the way, I've reached out to and said, hey, do you mind answering questions when I do these lives? And everybody has said yes. So if you reach out to anyone on that list, you can definitely ask them questions. One that comes to mind specifically is Homeschool Basics. I believe she's based out of, I forgot. I want to say one of the northern states. And she talks about IEP services for her that she has from a personal standpoint, the experiences that she's had. Is there a different from homeschooling and online school? Yes, there is. Usually online school is still through the public school, whereas homeschooling is like you are fully withdrawing from public school and you're falling under the law of homeschooling for your state. So if you're doing like a distance learning program, but it's still through the public school, you're technically still a public schooler. So there's that. That's the main difference. What does unschooling look like? It looks different for every family. So some people are really nature focused with their unschooling, or some families really like to focus on um, unit studies because they have kids close in age. So they do a lot of unit studies. For us, but for the majority in terms of like across the board, it's child led, meaning you're kind of following your kid's interests. So think Miss Frizzle. Miss Frizzle would base the lesson of the day based around what a child in the class is asking. So that's kind of how I think of unschooling, is like a Miss Frizzle magic school bus approach. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. Let me grab this QA question. Yeah, if I've missed your question, please do type it in the QA. So you said, do we have to keep attendance, send in grades, etc.? It depends on what state you're in, Adrian. So in Georgia, for example, yes, we have to keep attendance, but we don't have to turn it in. And we don't have to send in grades, but we do have to keep a progress report and transcripts of what we're doing. So, Georgia is just one of those states where it's like, we need you to do it, but we don't have anyone for you to turn it into. So keep those things on file for 3 years. So the short answer, I guess it could be yes. If you want to drop your state in the chat, just decide, we can be more specific, but it depends on the state. Like some states don't want anything from you. They don't want any paperwork. They don't want anything turned in. Other states have annual evaluations. So it's, yes, it's going to depend on the state. Oh, Kentucky. Hey, okay, let's see. I don't know Kentucky off the top of my head, so I'm going to look it up real quick and see. What does Kentucky require? And then y'all, for you guys, I know some people are also dropping their states. This is the website I'm going to, this hslda.org/legal. So you can definitely go to that website and click on your state in order to see what is required for your state. Let's see. So Kentucky, you do have an annual notice that you have to send in. So that's very similar to Georgia. We have to every year send in our notice to intent letter. It does say to keep attendance reports and report cards, but it doesn't say who to turn it into. So again, very similar to Georgia in that, like you got to keep the record, but who do you turn it into? Doesn't say. There's no annual evaluations for Kentucky. There's no testing requirements for Kentucky. It does say that you have to provide 1,062 hours of instruction over a period of at least 170 days. So let's just do the math on that. That's a specific number of hours, 1,062, not 1,061. Like, where did they get that number? But if your school days are longer, like if you school year round, then, that would be less hours per day. So let's see, 1,062 divided by 170. Okay, so they're saying that's approximately 6.2 hours a day, but clearly you are in school more, you can spread that out. I'm not even sure how they came up with that number. And then they have the required subjects you must teach are reading, writing, spelling, grammar, history, mathematics, science, and civics. So when you're choosing a curriculum, you would just want to make sure that whatever you're choosing touches on each of those subjects in some way, shape, or form. And you have to teach in the English language, it says, for Kentucky. So that's it. So it's pretty simple. And then like I do sell on my Etsy shop the templates that I use for attendance and keeping track of grades. So if you wanted to check that out, I do have the link to that in my profile. It's very simple. I just use a spreadsheet document to like keep up with that. So hopefully that's helpful. You said, have I used or looked at the good and the beautiful? I've looked at it. I don't use it, but there are lots of people who do. I think Julie is one of them from Rooted Home Academy. But no, I don't use it personally. It just didn't catch my eye or my children's eye when I showed it to them. But yes, that's right. Julie from Rooted Home Academy, she uses it. So definitely you guys could connect. And, Julie, if you want to share your thoughts, I know a lot of people like it. Liberty Danny, it says, any suggestion for parents trying to teach different ages? So yeah, for you, I would say some families do unit studies, depending, like if your kids are close in age, where you're just kind of teaching around a particular topic, and it's for all your kids' ages. My kids are a bit more spread out. I have a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old, so I will stagger their start times. And I encourage them to be independent learners as soon as possible, because that definitely helps. Also, not teaching the same subject at the same time has been helpful for me. But it's just going to kind of depend. Like I will try out different things and just find your flow, find your rhythm with that. But for us, definitely different start times, different subjects, and encouraging them to be independent. Also, using online resources is really helpful. So one of the ones that we've used is Khan Academy for like video explanations of different subjects. So if I'm working with one child, the other can get on Khan Academy and use the video explanations to get the answers that they're looking for. They don't have to wait for me. I also invest in a lot of different resource books that I encourage my older two to try to find the answer on their own before they come to me with a question, just to encourage them to like do the research. So that's what I do. Unit studies worked for us when the kids were younger, like when my oldest was like 3rd grade and my middle child was like 1st grade in kindergarten. But now that they're more independent, they're more advanced, a unit study with all of my kids just wouldn't work out. One would be bored or not get it. Have you looked into the Night Zookeeper program? So I've heard of that one. I don't use it personally. But with any of these curriculums that you guys are curious about, I would encourage you to include your kids, number one, in the discussion of anything that you're interested in, because everything looks good online. It's supposed to, like, that's what the content is made for. If the content you're interested, or excuse me, if the curriculum you're interested in has a free trial, I encourage you to use it. But the biggest indicator of success is going to be, does your kid like it and are they learning from it? So I can tell you all day it's amazing and your kid would not like it. Or I can tell you it was horrible, it didn't work for my kid, but your child will love it. So, kind of that's my thought on any of the programs, where it's just like one family will love it, another family will hate it. But yeah, definitely ask your kids. I think Night Zookeeper is one that has a free trial. In fact, let me confirm that. Yes, they have a free trial. Oh, they also have a coupon code going on, it looks like. So yeah, so I would encourage you, if it's something that you're interested in, do the free trial. Let your kid try it out and see how they like it. And if they don't, move on. Do we have to have a classroom? No, you don't. You do not. You do not have to have a classroom. In fact, I know a lot of families, they will use their kitchen table and like a cart. I have a little cart over here, and that's what keeps their school supplies organized. And then they roll the cart away when they're done with it. A classroom is definitely a personal choice. It's not a requirement. And I wouldn't even say that it helps or hurts in either way. It's just a personal decision, kind of like having a dining room. Like you can have a fancy dining room, or you could just have a kitchen table. So, yeah. You said, what about children with dyslexia? So, one person I think you should definitely check out, Eva's mama, is Team Hey Homeschools. That's her username here on this app. She is dyslexic herself, and she is homeschooling her 5 children, 4 of whom have dyslexia as well. I would encourage you to go check out her content. She also goes live every Friday morning, and definitely ask her, her thoughts on homeschooling with dyslexia, and what tips and tricks that she has, because she's living it. Like anything that I tell you is just going to be something you could Google, which you probably already have. But again, her username is Team Hey Homeschools, and yeah, she's like living it currently. And her kids are younger than mine. I want to say her oldest is like 11 or 12. I might have that wrong, but yeah, she's currently homeschooling young kids with dyslexia. And she herself has dyslexia too. So definitely, I would encourage you to check out her channel. And she's also on the resources, the Rolodex list as well. Okay. Ooh, guys, I am so behind on the comments in the chat. Let me again encourage you guys to type in the QA. That makes it a lot easier. Okay. How much time do you spend with family? I'm with them every day. Do you mean my family or like extended family? Let me know. But I'm with my children every day, like my close family, every single day. But extended family, I don't know, maybe once a month we see each other. Let's see. Oh, what is the name of your Etsy store? It is called Homeschool Help Desk. And there's a link to it in my profile as well. Thank you for asking that. Forgot to mention it. Okay. What do you test the kids on weekly? I think the only weekly test we do is math. We do have a vocabulary book that we've been using that it's not so much a test as they just have an assignment to do. It's not like a traditional spelling test, if that's what you mean. And then also when we were using Studies Weekly, there was a test included at the end of each of those lessons for science and social studies, whatever that topic was for the week. I keep getting notifications, my goodness. Whatever topic they were doing for the week, there was a test at the end of that. So I guess it was science, social studies, and math that were the weekly tests. Reading comprehension, we didn't do a weekly test, and vocabulary wasn't weekly, but we did have tests throughout the term. But also it's going to depend on what curriculum you choose too. Those are just based on what I was using. A stay-at-home parent, extremely flexible. Like you can take off whenever you need to. You can vacation whenever you'd like to. We homeschool year round, so it's very flexible. Like we went and spent a month in the Caribbean when my kids were younger. So very, 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 very flexible. Any certifications that you need to homeschool your children? None. No certifications needed. We don't have a computer or laptop either. I would say that's okay if your kids are young, like, K through 2nd grade. I would say it's something worth investing in as your kids get older, though, for sure. Or you would want to at least make sure you're getting to the library. Like if your library has computer stations, you would want to get to the library on a weekly basis, or maybe, twice weekly at least, just so they are getting that practice. Because, the world it's digital. They are going to need to learn the skill. But if you have young kids, I would say it's not an urgent purchase, but that's what I would recommend. When was the last time you cried and why? This is the internet. I'm not sharing that. Do you use IXL as a guideline? So I personally don't, just because Georgia has their own standards website. I recommend this for states that don't have such a specific breakdown. Like Georgia has a very nice specific breakdown, like from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So I use that because it's specific to my state. But IXL I would recommend that for other states where they're not as forthcoming with the information. That's a good place to start for other states. But if you're in Georgia, I would say go to georgiastandards.org because that's going to be more detailed. Let's see. I think I'm all caught up in the QA. I don't know what WBT is. So if I missed your question in the QA, or excuse me, in the chat, please do type in the QA. I'm going to try to scroll back up and see what did I miss, because that was coming in fast. Do you have any recommendations for high school curriculum? Yes, in my profile, there's a list of resources. A lot of them go through high school as well. While I was at the Homeschool Expo, teaching textbooks definitely caught my eye for math. Time for Learning is one that a friend of mine has used for her kids all the way through high school. Let's see, what's this one? This one was all about high school. They gave a whole checklist. This is unitehomeschool.com. And they had this like whole college bound checklist for high schoolers. And if there's things that were on that I saw at the homeschool conference that I don't have on the resources list, give me until the end of today to get those added, because there was a lot out there for high school, y'all. That's another thing about this conference that I really enjoyed, was that there was something for everyone. They had, the religious curriculum, they had secular curriculum, they had big companies, they had small mom and pop type companies. They had every subject represented. So English, language arts, reading, they had coding, science, history, math, foreign languages, like it was all represented. And colleges were there. Colleges, both private and public colleges, were there. They had folks there to talk to you about dual enrollment. It was great, honestly. It was so good that, like I said, I didn't even make it to the speeches because I was getting so much information from those tables. So I'm even more motivated to go all the way through high school. Like I was going to do it already, but I'm even more motivated now. All right, let me grab this QA question. What about sports and extracurricular activities? Oh, good question. So in my state, which is Georgia, we have a law. It's called the Dexter-Mosley Act. Let me read that just to make sure I'm saying the name right. And what that law says is that for homeschoolers from grades 6 through 12, our kids can participate in the public school sports and the public school extracurricular activities. If you're not in Georgia, you also have the option of, community sports programs. You can sign your kid up for Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, 4-H. I mean, my daughter just over the weekend started clarinet lessons. So it's, Dexter-Mosley Act is what it's called here in Georgia. So yeah, there's definitely no shortage of opportunities for things that your kid can participate in. But specifically in Georgia, we do have this law that says our kids from grade 6 and up can go through the public school if you want them to. You might not even want them to, but it's there. So you're not going to be missing out on, like, if let's say you were a part of, I don't know, the Beta Club at your public school and you really want your kids to be part of it too. Well, in Georgia, you can go through your public high school and still homeschool, but your kid can be a part of those activities. All righty. Let me grab the QA again. Okay, trouble understanding the Florida laws. If you're having trouble understanding the Florida laws, like if you have like more specific questions, on the Rolodex in my profile, there are homeschoolers from Florida that you could reach out to and, just ask them their opinion on what they're doing. There should be several on there. And I know there's several Florida homeschoolers on TikTok who also make content if you're just not sure exactly what it means. It says no subjects required. Oh, that just means it's probably not explicitly mentioned in the law, but you can still choose any subjects that you want to include for your homeschool. If it's not explicitly stated, it might say that. How were you able to find this expo event? I just Googled it, honestly. I think I just Googled like homeschool conference, Georgia. And then that's one of the first ones that came up. So yeah, I would just do an internet search for your area. Okay, cool. I think I'm caught up in the QA. If I've missed your question in the chat, please do type it in the QA. Your daughter does MMA. We're thinking of putting my son in martial arts this fall too. So yeah, there's lots of ways that you can, your kid can get out there. You can get funding for homeschooling. You got funding for it, and you got your students' laptops and supplies. Oh, good. Do you mind sharing the source of what program you went through? Let's see, Georgia Peach Tasha. I know that question has come up in some of these lives. Let's see. What is this? Can you teach higher grade level topics if your child already, I'm thinking you mean like surpassed their grade level? Jenny Lynn too. Hopefully I'm getting that right. Yes, you can teach it. You can teach your child at whatever level they are. And if you don't feel comfortable teaching a subject, you can definitely outsource it to companies like OutSchool is one that I know of. You could hire a tutor. You could have them also take dual enrollment. Is in a lot of states where they are going to go to the local college to take courses. So short answer is yeah, you can teach at whatever grade level your kid is learning on. Okay, Shanna Banana, you said you'd used time for learning last year. Not too bad. You have a son with an IEP also. Okay, that's good to know that it was helpful for your son. All right, see you, Adrian. Good that you were here. Let's see. I'm trying to get caught up on the questions, guys. I know the chat was going like super fast for me on my end. So if I've missed you, I promise you I'm not trying to. Just type the question in QA. That makes it a lot easier to go back and see the question. All right. So it says, do you have to take your kids out of the public school system? No, you don't have to. It's just if you want to homeschool, then yes, you would need to withdraw them. But if your kids are thriving and doing well in public school, I would say let them stay. How do you go about finding a homeschooling group? So, Elizabeth, a couple ways. A lot of people always say Facebook. I'm personally not on Facebook that much, so that's not what I did. I use the library, our local library, as like a central exchange of where to, what's going on in the area. Because a lot of times the librarians, they're noticing who's coming in. They know who the homeschoolers are in a lot of ways, and they can connect you and they can say, oh, yeah, there's a homeschooling group that meets here every Thursday. And they'll let you know what time. So that's actually how I found out about homeschooling groups in my area because I live in a rural area. But yeah, those would be the main two ways. You could also try to Google your area. If you like live in a city, you're probably going to have more luck with that. But if you're in a suburban or rural area, I would try the library first and check multiple libraries in your area because you might have different libraries that different homeschool groups meet at. So that's what I would try. Let's see. Would the everything you need books be a curriculum? No, I would consider that a supplement. Like I would consider that just like a resource book to have, almost like a dictionary. So like if your kid isn't understanding something that's in the curriculum you choose, they can go check out those books to kind of read through and get a better explanation of what they need to know. I would not consider that a full curriculum on its own. I would not. But it's definitely helpful, like a helpful addition to your curriculum. How do you find secular co-ops? Same answer, because not every co-op is religious. Libraries, Facebook, or I mean, if you are adventurous, you could create your own. I'm personally not much of an extrovert, so I wouldn't create my own, but that is a way. You said any examples of successful people that homeschool? I think that depends on your definition of successful. Just off the top of my head, I know Simone Biles was homeschooled, but there's lots of them. I mean, you could just probably do a Google search of that one just to see who comes up. And then based on your definition of success, you could see if anyone on that list meets your definition. Best things for a kindergarten student. Ooh, dry erase, dry erase, dry erase, dry erase. Dry erase boards and dry erase workbooks and different types of manipulatives that you could utilize in different ways. I share a lot of the ones that we use on my Amazon storefront if you just want to go check it out and get an idea. I would not say, don't jump into paper workbooks if your kid's not really ready to sit down and focus. You're just going to waste your money because there's going to be those scribble days and you're not going to get much of it done. But dry erase, for some reason, I think just kids just prefer markers. So that is what worked for us. The Work Clean book, the Wipe Clean workbooks, they come with their own little marker. I hate those. They're terrible. I would just go ahead and invest in some thicker ones like this. That's easier for their, smaller hands to grip. And then also it's good for repetition. You could also invest in these little things. They're like little pouches that you can drop in a worksheet that you just print offline, and that can be used for dry erase as well. Or if you have a laminator, you could use that too. So yeah, definitely dry erase. I cannot say that enough. Like, dry erase for kindergarten I couldn't homeschool without that. But I also do have on the Rolodex, or excuse me, on the resources list in my profile, there's lots of different curriculums that you can look through and resources and apps. So I would maybe check that out to see if any of that appeals to you. Any tips for fifth graders? Same, same answer. The resources list in my profile, y'all, it gets added on to usually at every live. Someone is recommending a resource that they really like, and I just added on to that resources list, and it just keeps growing and growing with every live. In terms of tips, like how to teach a fifth grader, I would really focus on their learning style and try to find resources that will complement their learning style and their interest. I mean, but that's for any grade. That's not just fifth grade specific. But as they're growing up and heading into middle school, I would also say a great investment would be the Big Fat Notebook series by the Workman Publishing Group. They're the same ones that make these Brain Quest decks, if you're familiar with that. That series is worth its weight in gold to me, because as you're transitioning from 5th to 6th grade, the concepts that they're going to be learning are much more easily explained in that series. And it's almost written in like the Diary of a Wimpy Kid style. So it looks like a notebook, like you're just looking at someone's notes. Basically, it's like a more fun version of Cliff Notes for each subject that your kid would need to know in middle school. So I would highly recommend that you invest in that. I do have that series linked in my Amazon storefront as well. And I bought that when my oldest was in 5th grade. And it has been probably one of the best purchases I've made, in addition to dry erase. So yeah, definitely, I recommend that. How to find me on Teachers Pay Teachers? I think I called myself Homeschool Help Desk on there too. Or no, I think I said Homeschool Help Desk Live on Teachers Pay Teachers. Let me see. I forgot what I named myself on there. I'm not a huge fan, honestly, because they take a huge chunk. Like that commission they take is ridiculous. Yeah, I'm Homeschool Help Desk Live on Teachers Pay Teachers. Thank you for asking, Tracy. Let's see. In Georgia, do we have to follow the standard to a T? You do not. We only have 5 subjects that are required by law, and that's reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. You can, and I encourage you highly to go outside of that and definitely include your kids' interest in that. But no, it's meant to be a guide, because keep in mind, there's no one to turn it into at the end of the year. We don't have annual evaluations in Georgia, and our testing doesn't start until 3rd grade and then every 3 years after that. So no, I think I encourage you to tailor your kids' experience to to their interest and y'all's needs. How long have you been homeschooling? This is our 9th year. 9 years. Can our homeschoolers play public school sports? Yes, in Georgia, they definitely can. There's a law that supports that. In other states, you're going to want to just double check to see. You may have to ask your specific school district, but in Georgia, for sure, the answer is yes to that question. Let's see. Okay. Whew. You guys, this chat is moving quickly. If I missed your question, please type it in the QA. I promise I'm not trying to miss anybody. It's just the comment section is harder to follow when it's moving quickly. Do you teach at the dining table or do they have their own desk? Oh, good question. So we do it everywhere. I do have a classroom set up here, so it's like, a desk set up here in the classroom. We also have a library across the hall where we have like a lap desk and little foldable trays that they can utilize in there. They've also done their schoolwork in their bedrooms, in the living room, in the car when we're traveling. So we're all over the place. But we have used our kitchen table as well, just wherever they're comfortable that day. Workbook recommendations for 8th grade social studies and science. I'm not planning to use workbooks for social studies and science this year, as I do have an 8th grader. Um, I don't have a workbook recommendation for those. I know that they exist, but I don't have a recommendation because I'm not planning to use workbooks. We're going to be following the standards for Georgia that I got from georgiastandards.org, and that doesn't really require a workbook. We're definitely going to be doing a lot more reading and writing this year for history, and probably taking more trips to science museums. And we might do some different history museums. It just depends, because our focus this year is supposed to be on Georgia. And so that's why I'm not really going to be using a lot of workbooks for Georgia. We're just going to use the Georgia standards.org website to follow that. So that's a good one. I don't know about workbooks. Yeah, I don't have a workbook, but I do have book recommendations, like just books, but not workbooks, which again, I do have several linked in my Amazon storefront, but they're not workbooks. They're just like reference books. How has the world of homeschool changed in 9 years? Oh, that's a good question. More acceptance, much more acceptance. I feel like at the beginning, if you tell people you homeschool, there was a lot of side eye. Like the assumption was that you only homeschool if your kid can't handle public school or if they got in trouble and expelled or something. So there's a lot more acceptance when you tell people you homeschool. Resources, a lot more resources, a lot more free resources. Because when I first started, it felt like everything was all in one. So you had to buy a bundle. But now, because there are so many different companies that specialize, you can just say, I'm only going to do this company for math and this company for, language arts and this company for science. So I do like that. Definitely a lot more resources, more acceptance. And of course, my family finally came around because they were not on board at the beginning. Let's see, what else? Social media has made it to where you can definitely find your people a lot easier. Because again, when I first started, it was a very homogenous group. That just seemed like everyone was kind of cut from the same cloth, if you catch my meaning, and I just didn't fit that mold. So definitely social media has made it a lot easier to find my people, which I definitely appreciate. So yeah, that's probably 3 ways that it has changed. You start a math tutoring job today. Any tips? No, never been a tutor. I would say take your time and good luck. I don't have any tips for that though. I don't tutor other people's kids. At the expo, did you speak to colleges? What did they want from homeschools? So, so funny. Yes, I did speak to a couple of colleges, and they love homeschoolers because they definitely feel like they are more prepared for college than some public schoolers and some private schoolers, because they're already thinking critically. They're already used to working independently as opposed to working off of like a 7 to 3 schedule, which we know that's not how it is in college. If you've been to college, that's not how it is. So just really the main thing was like, make sure that you're meeting the requirements for Georgia, which there's just 17 courses that are required for Georgia. And they love dual enrollment as well. So I got a lot of information about dual enrollment at which colleges. But basically the main thing was they love homeschoolers, and they wanted homeschoolers to know that we are sought after and that we shouldn't be afraid to apply, and that there are different routes to take to get in there that can be paid for through scholarships and dual enrollment as well. So yeah, colleges are loving on. Let me see if I have that form right here so I can show y'all, because there was one person there. She was representing multiple colleges, and she gave me the piece of paper. Oh, here it is. So this is, she was there representing eCore, specifically talking about how homeschoolers could use dual enrollment at 21 University System of Georgia colleges and universities in order to basically get their college paid for. And then she was also there promoting different online degrees that you can get from public universities as well. So I'm just going to hold this up. These were the colleges she was representing. So if you're in Georgia, you might recognize some of the ones on this list. But yeah, she was basically like, these colleges love homeschoolers, and we want you to know that you can come hang out and further your education through these schools. So yeah, colleges were loving on some homeschoolers there. Which resource for grade goals again? Grade goal. Oh, like the standards. So this one here, this ixl.com/standards is a good one. If you're not in Georgia, if you are in Georgia, georgiastandards.org is a good one to go to, just so you know what your kids should know for each grade. Okay. And there was one other question. Is it possible to work and homeschool? Yes, it is. I did that up until February of this year. And I guess technically I'm still doing it because this is starting to feel like work. But I enjoy it. So yes, it is 100% possible to do it. You're going to have to be more disciplined with your schedule, especially if you have like a traditional corporate 8 to 5 schedule. And you'll have to get creative with when you homeschool, if you need help from family, or, if you have a spouse or a partner, so it's going to depend on what all you have going on in your life. But short answer is yes, it is 100% possible. I did it for many years. All right. Yes. Thank you, Julie. If I'm missing questions, please throw them in the QA, because I know this chat is moving quicker than I can see. Hold up the colleges again. Here, these are just some now, because this isn't even all who was there. This person was representing all of these colleges, but there were like some private schools there too, like private colleges. She was there representing these public ones. And again, this is specific to Georgia. So lots of good ones. And that's not even all the ones you can go to, by the way. That's just who was at this particular conference. What's the best curriculum for elementary school? Ooh, hard question. Like, it's going to depend on which one your kid gravitates towards best. But I do have a resources list in my profile that you can click on and like just go through and see which ones work best for your kid. That's the best curriculum, in my opinion, is the one that your child responds to best. And that might take some trial and error of you testing different ones out, try this, try that, until you land on the one that works best. But definitely check out that resources link in my profile. You said you have a special needs child, where to start? So of course, it's going to depend on what needs you're talking about. I would recommend that you start by checking out the Rolodex list in my profile, because there are families on that list who have children with special needs, different special needs like autism, dyslexia, some others like ASD and whatnot. So, well, that's the same as autism, isn't it? ADHD is what I meant. So it just kind of depends on what special needs you're talking about, but I would definitely refer you to that Rolodex so that you can reach out to other homeschoolers on this app and just ask anything that is, more specific to what you're talking about. Cause it just, it kind of just, special needs is a big umbrella that covers a lot of different things. So I wouldn't want to, have you getting, if I'm, talking about autism, but you mean dyslexia, you know what I mean? So definitely do check out that list. Okay. About African history. Are you just talking about like resources, or what do I specifically use? Because I use a bunch of different things like documentaries. I have different resource books here at the house. I haven't found an all in one curriculum that, in my opinion, does a good job holistically. Um, but one thing that I really, really enjoyed doing with my kids, different census data, we would talk about what was happening in that decade, like the significant things that were happening in that decade, specific to our family, specific to where our family was living, and specific to the African American experience. So, but if you're talking about like African history before America, I really like the DK Black History book. Um, and I like books in general for that. And also, um, lots of documentaries, lots of good ones. There's lots of good ones out there. There's one on Disney Plus that we just recently watched about the last slave ship that came to Alabama. That was recommended to me by another friend of mine. But yeah, there's so many out there. Just I haven't seen anything all in one though. How did you do it when you were working? So my schedule was pretty flexible. I would know my schedule 2 weeks out, so I would just put that schedule on the spreadsheet that I was using as like the template. And I tried very hard to be consistent with my work schedule. Sometimes that worked, sometimes that didn't. And God, how did I do it? I don't know. I felt like I was like a robot on autopilot. I just would make my schedule. I would say, okay, we're homeschooling. We're going to do this subject at this time. I'm working at this time. And yeah, that's kind of how I did it. It was just, I just got it done. Oh man. But definitely following the spreadsheet schedule was huge. Did did you send your kids to daycare with homeschool assignments? No, my kids have never been to daycare. But whenever I needed someone else to watch them, like my mother, I did send them to her house with homeschool assignments. So sort of yes, but it wasn't like a traditional daycare. Did you like homeschool before work or after? Yeah, after. I'm not even gonna lie. I do not miss my job. My job was answering customer service calls, and I don't miss that. People are not nice to customer service representatives. Have you used the Everything You Need to Ace? Yes, yes, live by those. Love those books. Thank you. Hey, Lorinda. Yes, we definitely use those. We literally used it just this morning because we were talking about integers and exponents. Just this morning, we literally used it. Resource, Writing Wizard to make free worksheets. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Let me look that up real quick. Writing Wizard. I know we have another one on there. Oh, I like this. This is so cute. And they have an app. Okay, nice. So I wonder, let me see if this website will connect to both. So awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now there's Writing Wizard in the app, and there's eslwritingwizard.com. I don't know if they're connected, but we'll just add them both. Okay, hold on. Be patient with me, guys. I'm just wanting to make sure I write this down so I don't forget to add it later. Okay, thank you for sharing that resource. Okay, how many subjects do you typically cover a day? 5. And I know that off the top of my head because I made our schedule already. Whoops. Which I can show you. It's also in my Instagram if you guys follow me there. So this is our schedule. So the beginning subjects, ELA and math, are here at the beginning. So that's 2 subjects covered. Foreign language is 1, and then science and typing, that would be 4 and 5. And then it just changes every day in the afternoon. Like our mornings are consistent, but our afternoons, I change it up. So 5, except for Friday, which is just 4. Because I say financial literacy and life hacks, but it usually just ends up being financial literacy. So we do 4 to 5 a day. What planner do you use or recommend? Oh, Britt, I'm terrible with planners. Every year I try. Look, I try every single year to get a planner. My planner graveyard is next to me. This one was from Michael's. I think this one's by, I forgot who this one is by. It was this whole teacher planner with these cute little inserts, right? Like keep calm and pretend it's on the lesson plan. And I used about a month of this. So I'm terrible with paper planners. I am not the best person to ask. Every year I try and fail. So I just use spreadsheets. That's what I use. And that's been the most consistent thing for me is spreadsheets. So I'm sorry, I'm a terrible person with paper planners. I wish I consistently try. I was even thinking about it again this year, like maybe this will be the year, but it never is. It never is. How many hours do you dedicate to homeschooling? For us, it's 4.5 each day is what's on here. So there's 2 hours in the morning and then 2.5 hours in the afternoon with like an hour and a half break in between. But that's not us sitting down solidly for 2 hours. Like there's flexibility there, but that's what's allotted. So approximately 4.5 hours each day. Sometimes less, sometimes more. Do you think your kids learned enough when you worked? Yes, because even when they were working independently, we would still go back and review what they learned. And I also do assessments and checks each year. So yes, I do believe that they learned enough. And I also follow the Georgia standards for our state. So I was checking it off. Like, did we cover that? Did we cover that? Did we cover that? So yes, they definitely did. What do you do for financial literacy? Oh, good question. So basically I just use our life as the curriculum on that. We talk a lot about passive income streams. We have different money resource books, both for the kid level and for the adult level. And we just talk through things like when bills come in, we talk about it. We talk about budgeting. We talk about investing and dividends and compound interest. So there's not one particular curriculum or workbook that I would recommend because we use more than one. But basically, I just explain life to them. Like my kids understand taxes. When I was, doing our taxes out, they were like right over my shoulder, like, okay, so, this is a deduction and this is, just explaining things to them as they come in. Like this is what equity in the home means. And this is, what escrow means, just, talking them through our life. And then also, again, encouraging them to read different books that cover finances that we don't necessarily encounter. Like we're not renters, but we still teach about rent so that they understand what goes into that. So that's how we do it. Oh my goodness, y'all. Okay. Did your kids get vaccinations? Yeah, they get what's required when they go to the doctor. Thoughts on my father's world curriculum. Oh, they were at the thing. They were at the homeschool conference that I went to. Yes, here it is. Boop, my father's world. So I had not heard of them before I went there. I'll be honest with you on that. To me, nothing stood out about them that made me say, "Oh, this is better than what we're using." It just looks like another kind of all-in-one curriculum. Didn't see anything extraordinary. Some of the books that they recommend are books that we have seen before. Because a lot of time, like they use Usborne books. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me flip it around. Like a lot of these all-in-ones, they are putting together packets of books that they consider to be good books, but I've seen them before. So it like I said, it didn't stand out to me as exceptional. They were there and I remember seeing them there. But yeah, like I said, when it comes to any curriculum, guys, it's just going to depend on what is resonating with your kid. The Good and the Beautiful has free printer planner sheets. Okay, yeah, that's good to know. I'm trying to get caught up, y'all. How did you motivate your kids to get started? Oh, good question. A lot of lecturing, probably, they would tell you. Ultimately, I just explained to them why intelligence was better than ignorance and how if they want to have more control over their life, they're going to need to be informed and educated in order to do that. I let them know that I don't know all the answers, so they're going to have to get comfortable seeking them out on their own. So yeah, just explaining to why an education matters is huge. Don't just plop them down with a workbook and say do it, because they're going to be like, why? If I give my kids a workbook, I explain to them why I think this is going to help them in life, or why it should matter to them. And also they help pick out what they're using, so they're motivated to use it. Like they are part of helping to choose their own workbooks. They're part of the process. So that really helps to get them motivated. Thank you, Kay. I heard you, I saw you say in the chat, we got you. Thank you. I'm so glad y'all are here. Do you use any OutSchool for homeschooling? I don't yet, but I definitely will in the future. I already know we're going to. But as of right now, we're not using it yet. Ooh, 4.5 hours. How did you do that while working? Again, spreadsheets. So up here, this would be a shift that I was working. Y'all have to also remember my job, I could pick my hours. I did not have a standard corporate 9 to 5. I was able to select my hours. So that's a huge part. So like this part up here that says homeschool help desk, I would have been working during this morning time. I would have worked during lunch, and then I would have worked after in this space here. And I also, for a time, I would work at night too. So I was able to pick my hours, and I would just block them out at different times of the day. Usually I didn't work more than 2 hours at a time, but it would just be throughout the day. And then during the breaks that I wasn't working, I was working with my kids on their homeschool. So it's possible. It's a lot. And there wasn't a lot of days where we were we had our days where we would go out, but it was like it was much more strict. We weren't as free flowing when I was working, and we really kept to the job, or the schedule. So that was for me. But if you have an 8 to 5 or a traditional 9 to 5, then I would say that you would need to homeschool after that, or like in the evenings or on the weekends. So it's going to depend on your work schedule. My particular work schedule allowed for that flexibility. But if you have one that's different, then you're just going to have to consider like around your schedule. Like keep in mind, you don't have to homeschool during 7 to 3 hours, like traditional public school hours. You could get a lot done from the 5 to 6 or 5 to 7 or 6 to 8, or on the weekends. Again, I think some people feel like they don't have to or shouldn't homeschool on the weekends. Like you definitely can. It's just going to depend on your work schedule. So every family is a little bit different there, but that's how I did it. Could you touch on getting started in Florida? I don't know the specifics of Florida, but I would say the Rolodex list in my profile, there are homeschoolers in Florida. And they also are on this app. So if you wanted to reach out to them directly and just say like, hey, this is, I have some questions about Florida. But I would definitely encourage you to reach out through that Rolodex. I wouldn't want to lead you astray. Anything that I find for Florida is something that you could also Google. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out to someone in Florida, either through that Rolodex list or just in your area, to get kind of that, that hands-on, like living through it experience. How do you set up your assessments? Oh, good question. So for the main assessment that we have to do, like the 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade that the state requires, I order it. I've ordered it from the Hewitt Learning company. That's the one we use. We use the PASS test. So you just pay for the test. You order it in advance with, you give them the date that you're planning to give the assessment. They'll mail you the information. My kids, with the PASS test, you can take it at home. It's a paper test, but you can also do online assessments. There's companies like the California Achievement Test. That's one company that I know of, where you can have your child take the test online. So it's going to depend on which assessment you choose. But if you're talking about like just the regular assessments that I give, just the pre-test, post-test, I just printed them and give it to them here at home. But that's the main ones, like I said, where I'm having to order it and then we have to mail it back in for them to have it graded and evaluated. I just order it in advance through the Hewitt Learning Company. That's the one that I've used. Thank y'all so much for the likes and the shares. I do see those popping up with some of the other notifications. Would you consider American Sign Language foreign language? Yes, it's actually, yes, it is considered a foreign language here in Georgia. It's on the list of courses you can take to meet that requirement. So 100% yes, we actually have some sign language resources here. I definitely do. And so does the state of Georgia. Yes, ma'am. Oh, it's not typically offered in high school. That's true. It's not. Um, but yeah, it is considered a foreign language here in Georgia. How do you switch to homeschool? Do you mean like how do you withdraw from public school? So each school district has their own withdrawal procedures. You're going to want to just Google your specific states, or excuse me, your school district's withdrawal procedures. Withdrawing is not a big deal. People move all the time. So it's probably on their website where you can just go and find whatever the withdrawal procedures are. But before you do that, you're going to want to look at the law for your state to see if there's any sort of notification that's going to be required. Some states have like a certain period that they want to see. Like you have to, if you withdraw your child, you have to enroll as a homeschooler within like 14 business days or 15 business days. So you're going to want to read through that and check that just to make sure. But it's usually a very simple process. You withdraw from public school following whatever your district's procedures are. Sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a certified letter. And then after that, you would follow the rule for signing up to homeschool in your state. If there is one, you might live in a state that requires no paperwork. So it's going to be state dependent. Yes, Abeka is still around. They were at the homeschool conference that I went through, or that I went to. You can with an 8 to 5 job. It's just it's going to depend on your schedule and how that's going to work for your family. It's not impossible though. What if my child has never been in school? So mine were also not in school, and we just Georgia requires you to submit your paperwork to homeschool, your notice of intent, your declaration of intent, when your child is 6 or going to be 6 on, I think, September 1st. If your child is going to be 6 that year is when you would submit your declaration of intent to homeschool. And so you just do that. And that's it. You're homeschooling from that point. My children have never been to daycare or public school. So when it was time to submit the paperwork, that's what I did. I just submitted that one piece of paper. It wasn't even a piece of paper, it was online. And then you can print the piece of paper. And that was it. We were homeschooling from that point. So it's totally fine if your child has never been to school. You would just follow the requirements to notify for your state if you have any. Thank you for the likes. I appreciate that. Y'all, I have not seen the chat. So if y'all have chatted to me, I apologize if I've missed you. Please do type it in the QA. I'm trying not to miss anyone's question, but I know I am. You said, did or do your kids ever ask to go to public school? Yes, they my girls have asked in the past. And when they asked, I went to the website that they would be going to for their school, because their best friends go to the school that they would be going to. So they have that exposure through their best friends. And so when they were asking about it, we went to the website for the school and we talked about like what we would need to get prepared for them to be enrolled. And we looked at what the schedule is. I pointed out to them where in the neighborhood the bus would be, where they would have to go, and what time they'd have to get up, and just all the things that we would need to do to prepare for them to go to public school. And surprisingly, once they found out all that went into it, they didn't want to go anymore. They were just like, we have to get up at what time? We have to do what? And then, of course, their friends talk about their homework and like projects that they have to do. And the testing, when the testing came around for Georgia, because Georgia at the public schools, they test every year. I think it's called milestones. Hearing their friends talk about how horrible the testing was deterred them. They were no longer interested. And in fact, their friends keep asking their mother to homeschool them. Or one of their friends asked if I would homeschool them. I said, absolutely not, but love you though. So yeah, they did ask and they're no longer interested. So, yeah. Do you have to turn in worksheets all year or at the end? That's going to depend on your state. Some states do have evaluations where you would need to show samples of their work. We do not have that in Georgia, so I don't have to turn in any work or worksheets, but I do keep it all anyway. But it's just going to depend on your state. I know some states like Florida and Pennsylvania have annual evaluations. Um, Other states like Texas and Illinois, they don't have any paperwork or any evaluations or any testing to do at all. So it just kind of depends on what state that you're in. But I would still recommend that you keep samples of their work for yourself, for your own personal records. But depending on what state you're in, that's going to determine what, if anything, you have to turn in. Good morning, Jacqueline. I just saw your comment. Good morning. Can you go over quarterly reporting briefly? So I actually don't have any quarterly reporting to do. I think that's only is that New York? Are you in New York? I feel like for some reason, New York stands out as doing quarterly reporting. I don't know why New York just came to mind for that. So I don't have any quarterly reporting requirements, and I don't want to steer you wrong. Yeah, New York. Okay, that's what I was thinking. So I don't know if there's anyone in here currently in this live from New York who would be able to answer that more specifically. But if not, I would encourage you to reach out to homeschooling groups in New York, because I wouldn't want to lead you astray and give you wrong information about that. We don't have quarterly reporting here. So that's what I would suggest, is reaching out to some New York homeschoolers. I don't think I have anyone from New York on the Rolodex yet. I know we have New Jersey, but let me double check to see if there's anyone on this Rolodex from New York. I hope one day, y'all, to have all 50 states represented. But the thing is, not everybody wants to answer questions online. Yeah, I don't have New York yet, unfortunately. So, but I wouldn't want to lead you astray. Okay, so you were saying yes, New York. What happens if you don't hand in a quarterly report? I don't know. Again, I'm not in New York, so I don't know. I would imagine you would get some sort of letter saying that they didn't receive it, but I don't know. I don't want to lead you guys astray on that topic because it's so specific to New York. I feel like there's an eyelash on me, y'all. That's why I keep doing this. But yeah, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to a homeschool group in New York and just ask, or see if there's anyone on this app, Homeschooling in New York, who talks about it. That way you can follow them and ask them that question. But I don't know anything about quarterly reporting because it's just not a requirement for Georgia. Okay, so I think I'm caught up in the QA. If I missed your question in the chat, please do type it in the QA because I don't want to miss anyone's question. And I see you guys are chatting to each other. Thank you, Kay, Big Mom, everybody who's answering questions in the chat too. Julie, I saw Lorinda, I saw y'all answering questions too. Thank y'all so much. Okay, let me grab that. You heard New York was tough on homeschoolers as far as all they require. I don't know if it's tough or it's just like once you've gotten in a rhythm with the paperwork, I think it's probably just like any other type of, rhythm that you would get in. I just think they require more paperwork, but I don't know that I would consider it tough. It's just, like I said, you just have to learn the rhythm. Do all colleges accept diplomas created by a parent? Yeah, all the ones that I'm aware of, because that's written in the state law, is that I'll use Georgia as an example. Our law specifically states that I, as a homeschooler, have all the authority to create any documents that are needed for my child's education. I'm basically seen on the same level as private school, public school, charter school. So whatever document I create is the official document that is required. And I know that sounds weird, but speaking as a former college admissions counselor, yes, we accept it at the college level. So yeah, there's no differences made between the paperwork submitted by a parent versus the paperwork submitted by a private school versus the paperwork submitted by a public school or charter school. The only additional thing that homeschoolers had to do when I was an admissions counselor, and keep in mind this has been a few years, was the parents had to sign an affidavit stating that what they are submitting is true. We did not require that of public schools, but that was the only difference. And then homeschoolers also had to score higher on ACT and SAT in order to be admitted. Now, I don't know if that's still the case. I would have to look, you'd have to look at each individual college that you're interested in. But homeschoolers had those two additional requirements when I was an admissions counselor. But yes, the paperwork was accepted. The transcript was accepted. Let's see. You had to call your Department of Education. I think that comment got cut off. Hold on, let me go back. You are allowed to even hold them back a grade. Yeah, you don't have to move on. If your child is not ready for the next grade, I would not encourage you to push them along. Like, keep working on that subject until they're ready. Don't move them ahead. Why do I keep feeling like there's a hair on my face? Oh, that's right. Some colleges don't even require the SAT and ACT anymore. That is so true. Yeah, I think California is a state I know of that has eliminated that requirement. Georgia still requires it though. But yes, some colleges no longer require the ACT or SAT at all. And I'll tell you guys, like, that was one of the things that really blew my mind as an admissions counselor when we were, when I was working with all these different types of students, was I was like, wait a minute, we don't require, well, how do we know these parents are not lying, just pencil whipping A's up in here? And it just really, it bugged me because I wasn't on the homeschool mindset at that time. But the more I got to know the homeschoolers and find out what they were doing, it was like, they're actually doing more. They're doing way more. And a lot of times homeschoolers have already been in dual enrollment too. So it's a natural progression to continue on in college. Oh, they have stopped? Oh my goodness, Raising Wolves. Okay, well, thank you for being here because I hadn't looked recently. So you said you have 4 sons in Georgia colleges, no ACT or ACT required anymore. Oh, good to know. Hold on a second and let me correct myself. Because I think the last time I looked, I was looking at Kennesaw State and they still had it on there. But good to know that they've taken it off. Because honestly, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a good indicator of how well your kid is going to do in college. It always just felt like an unnecessary extra step, a way for College Board to get some money. But I'm glad they've stopped requiring that. So good. Thank you for being here. It happened after the pandemic. Okay, that makes sense because I really haven't looked at much for admissions. But yeah. Yeah, I'm glad it's no longer a requirement because I didn't find it necessary, honestly. Even when I took it, 100 years ago when I was going to college, I was like, why? Oh, look, there it is. Big red bold letters. It says, first year students may apply to, I'm looking at Kennesaw State University for the fall 2022 semester, may be admitted without an ACT or SAT score if they have a GPA of 3.2 or higher. Students who have less than a 3.2 should submit official ACT or SAT scores along with their high school transcript to be considered for admissions. How interesting. Note that the test scores are still required for some scholarships. That's true. And programs. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Glad that fine print is out there now to make it clear, make it plain. BK Lowen, you said you never heard someone from anything public school say that. Ooh, say what? What were we referring to? She told me you have the power. She told me you have the power of any teacher at home. Yes, that's accurate. That is literally written in the law for Georgia. Yeah, it was something that I had to wrap my mind around too. But I think that it was a result of my conditioning. I had public school on this pedestal and homeschool on this, level. But once I read the law and I was like, oh, it's the same. What? So, but again, when you're on the homeschool side of things, you're like, yeah, we should have all the same. Our document should carry the same weight because we're doing the same, if not more. And oftentimes it is more work than what public schools are putting into our students. So it should carry the same weight. So yeah. Yes, every Georgia college is different. Check them all. That's exactly right. Yeah, for whatever admissions that you're looking at, whatever your goal college is, look at that college's admissions website, because some will probably say no SAT required at all. This one that I just read was Kennesaw State. It's one of the ones on the list that were at the Homeschool Expo that I was at this weekend. They say it's not required if your GPA is here, but it is required if your GPA is here. So definitely always check. Don't take this live as the gospel for your homeschool admissions. Okay. Any non-governmental funding resources? Ooh, not that I know of, but don't, again, don't take my word for it. I don't know about it because I'm not looking for it. That doesn't mean it's not out there. I mean, I guess there could always be like private colleges or, private groups that are raising funds to help homeschoolers in the area. I'm just not familiar with any, but it could be out there, but not that I'm aware. All right, cool. Ooh, y'all, that hour and a half went by fast. It is already almost 10, and I'm just trying to catch my breath. I don't even think I took a sip of my water. That was fast. Thank y'all for being here and participating. I'm trying to scroll back through the chat too. I know I missed some people in the chat, and I'm sorry, y'all. Normally it just, whew, the QA is why it's so like important, because then I can see the questions easier. Real estate Erica, you said your daughter says she wants to go to school sometimes. It's because she thinks it will be like Victorious the show. Yes. I think TV shows definitely gave my kids a false sense of what school was like. So yeah. Is the expo more than once a year? No, it's every year at the end of July. So yeah, it's just once a year for the one that I went to. But there are others in, that you can look up. But the one that I went to is just once a year. Yes, that was a wave of questions, right, Kay? I mean, I was trying to keep up. I know I missed. I'm like going back. Gosh. I'm sorry, y'all. If I've missed you and you're still here, please do type it in the QA, because I was not even able to look at the chat. I was so focused on the QA. I think I'm pretty caught up, I hope. And thank y'all in the chat who were answering questions too that I might have missed. I appreciate that so much, because I know I wasn't catching everything. And thank y'all again for the likes, for the follows, for the shares. It was a lot. You're welcome. Good morning. Hey, Ellie Motherhood. That's why I went to the expo with y'all. I went with Camilla. We met up while we were there. And even though we were there for like 5 hours, we still didn't hit every table. It was just that many people there. Plus we were chatting and just having a good old time. So yeah, whew, that was a nice live. Okay, well, I'm going to stop. I'm cutting off the podcast now because I went like 2 hours last time. I kept recording. Go ahead and cut off YouTube live. You can catch a replay of all this. I really didn't even get to talk about what I went through, what I collected from the from the expo. They even gave us a nail file. I thought that was quite thoughtful for me specifically, because I do file my nails from time to time. This one came from Time for Learning, y'all. They gave out nail files as one of their freebies. Some of the other freebies, though, like I said, they're gone. My kids have already run off with them. Oh, this was one that I purchased, this matching game. It was from this woman who had, her name is Dion Grayson. And she created this book series called, it's the Children's Gift Series. And she created this game. It's a matching game. I would say this is probably for like K through second grade. And what it is, you're supposed to match up the child or to their gifts, and that this is the match. And so I thought that was so cute. And she has Elena the engineer. We get matched up with, wait, is this the engineer or the construction? Hold on, there's a construction one and an engineer. So you basically, though, you're supposed to match them up to their gifts. I thought that was so cute. So I bought that game. I also bought an an Usborne book that's all about money, but it has to be shipped to me. So I haven't gotten that one yet. You use Time for Learning too? Yay! Yeah, I know it's a good one. A lot of people like Time for Learning, and I love that they do the free trial to let you try it out before you commit. Your son loved that set that you bought? Oh, good. Time for Learning did have the best bag. Yeah, they had the light up ears. They had some little squeezy toy. They had a lot of little gadgets in their bag, but all I have left from that bag is the nail file and the little pamphlet. My kids like took the stuff immediately. When is your first day of school? Today? It's today. This is the box from the matching game. And she's on Instagram. Beyond Grayson Books is her name on Instagram. Whew, y'all. This live went by so fast. Where can you replay this live? On YouTube. It's if you follow me on YouTube, you can replay the live there. Also on my podcast, which is called Homeschool Help Desk Live. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts as well to replay any part that you missed. Thank you. You said I might need a special segment to go over your previews and resources. I might. I thought I was going to, I didn't expect a lot of people to be in today. So I thought I was going to be able to go through everything and just hold things up, one by one. But because I feel like a video would be too long. Maybe I have to make a special YouTube video and put it on YouTube because there's a lot, y'all. This is just the pamphlets of stuff, and it's pretty hefty. So I will say it seemed like the theme that people were giving away was scope and sequences. A lot of these bigger brands were focusing on handing out a scope and sequence. So I have like 4 or 5 different scope and sequence books that were just being given away. I did not make a lot of purchases there personally because I was trying to exercise restraint. But it was so funny because a lot of what was being sold, it just looked like my Amazon wish list. So no, that's not a scope and sequence. That's a catalog. But yeah, a lot of here's another scope and sequence. That one's by Life Pack. Oh my gosh, y'all, I'm dropping stuff. But there was a lot. That was like the main thing I kept noticing from the bigger ones was like they were giving out different scope and sequences. So there's 2 right there. There's more in this stack, I know, but that was 2. And so I would plan to use these as like a guide of what my kids should know. But then in addition to georgiastandards.org, like more information to me is better than less. Yes, please do the video on the qubits because I don't know. I think my son is more interested in the magnetics that we have. And that's one thing that held me off from buying those qubits. But I did think that they were cool. How many hours do you do a day for homeschool? 4.5 for us on average, sometimes less, sometimes more. Yes, definitely. Shout out to Kay. Kay was on it today. Oh my gosh, in the chat. Thank y'all. Even if Georgia, if you choose to use IXL, is that acceptable? Yes, it is. It is acceptable. Wait, what did I miss? So far, you've been carrying your son on trips, teaching him through play. Yes, that's the way to do it. Also, reading. You can never read enough to your child. Definitely. Reading is the main thing. Right Shop Junior 2. Oh, is that a resource that you like, B. Kayla? Oh, wait, I have this one. This is This is a link that I've been to before. Oh, and they have the placement quiz because we've done this. Yes. Okay, let me double check and make sure it's on the resources list though. Oh, wait, I think I didn't put this on here because it's a workbook series. But you know what? Let me just put the website because they have the sample lessons, the scope and sequence. Yeah. For some reason, I mean, I've been to this website before because it's already like, when you go to a website before, it's kind of grayed out. So I've been there before, but let me make sure, see if it's on the list. Catch my breath. Oh yeah, it's on there. Right Shop and Right Shop Junior. Yep, it is on there already. Cause yeah, I've seen that before, and we did the placement quiz as well on this site. So yes, thank you. That one is on the resources list. That's right. Yep, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, y'all. Dolly Parton's my favorite celebrity ever, but she's not in every area. But yes, you can get free books until your kid is 5, and if your area is one that is covered. Good morning, tutoring referrals. I do have one in my link in my profile. It's Reach Educational Services. That's a tutoring service that you could look into. Also, OutSchool is one that a lot of people recommend too. I haven't personally used that one. So yeah, there's different ones out there, and then there's a couple on the resources list too for different tutoring. I haven't personally used OutSchool yet though. Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you again, everyone who is answering questions in the chat, coming in clutch, because that was wild. What a day. You love OutSchool. Yeah, a lot of people really like OutSchool. How can you teach your child how to read without your Spanish accent? I would say just like you can do audiobooks, so like they'll hear different accents through audiobooks. You could also take them to the library to have them read to by librarians. Like a lot of librarians do that, but I think there's nothing wrong with your child having your accent. But if that's important to you, then yeah, definitely I would encourage you to look into audiobooks so that they're hearing different types of reading and they can follow along if you get the book and have them listen to the audiobook, or like I said, have outings at the library where they're hearing other librarians read aloud. But depending on the age of your child too, that's also going to make a difference. But yeah, just encouraging them to try out audiobooks. But there's also on YouTube too, there's people that will read books through the video. Any suggestions on learning activities for a 3-year-old that's still not talking? My nephew's not talking much either, other than to say no. So, I would just continue to talk with them, like, the way you would normally talk to anyone, and just continue to point out what things are as you're sharing. But yeah, my nephew's 3 and he doesn't talk much either, other than to say no, and he knows my son's name. Like, of all of us in the house, we are just extensions of my son. So like my son's name is Grayson. He'll say, I'm Grayson's mom. I'm not his aunt. I'm Grayson's mom. So he's not talking much either. But yeah, just, we just continue to play. I would say definitely keep your doctor in the loop if you're like really concerned like that it's an issue. You could also include like baby sign language if you wanted to. But also just keep in mind kids learn and speak at their own pace. But that would be some things that I recommend. Just keep encouraging them to talk, keep encouraging them to sound things out, and definitely keep your doctor in the loop on that. Opinions about using virtual school versus just independently homeschooling. So I've only ever I just independently homeschool my kids. I think from those I know who have used virtual schools, they don't like that they don't have as much control over what they can select, and they also don't have as much control over their schedule, because you have to start when virtual school starts and you end when virtual school ends. So if your kid needed more time, that's that could be a concern. It doesn't have to be a concern. It could be that it's the virtual school is a good pace for your kid. I personally just prefer the freedom of independently homeschooling, just because I think that that is what's best for my kids. But I would say if you think it's going to be a good fit, I would just say try it out. And if it's not, you can always withdraw from the virtual school and switch to just independently homeschooling, so that you're meeting your kids' needs. So, and that's another thing, guys. You don't ever have to feel like you're locked into any one particular way or style of educating your kid. If homeschool stops working, you can enroll them in public school or private school. It's not just one thing. There's plenty of people who homeschool up to a certain point and then their kids go to public school. That is very common. So yeah, just it's all going to depend on your kid and their how they're like how you assess how they're doing. You said you've used OutSchool and it's hit and miss with the teachers. We've loved some and not others. Yeah, I would agree that that's probably the most accurate assessment. It's like it's going to depend on the teacher. It's going to depend on the effort that teacher puts into their class and their program. So yeah, I agree with you, April, on that. You said so many nervous people. You remember being there. Hopefully, some were convinced. Yeah, sometimes these lives are helpful. Sometimes not. On OutSchool, read the teacher reviews and curriculum. Yes, absolutely. Sign language helps with communication skills. I agree. I agree. You said you heard at 10 years, officially an expert. Excited. I don't feel like an expert, and I'm at 9 years. That's why I keep doing these lives, because I'm always learning something new, that's out there, a new resource that is helpful that I've never heard of. My whole thing is I just always have this fear that I don't want to fail my kids, and that's what drives me to like never be complacent and never think that okay, I'm good. Like I just am always thinking, let's just see what's out there. Let's try something different if it's not working, or if my kid is no longer um, loving the curriculum, then I'm going to be on the lookout for more. So I don't know that I would ever consider myself to be an expert, but some people might. It's just that's not something for me that I don't feel like I'm going to get to that point. Even when I'm done and my kids are done with high school and maybe on to college or onto their careers, I'm still not going to say that I'm an expert, because there will have been more things that come along that I've never heard of. So, but everyone feels different about that. I don't that title, I'm just like, not really giving it to myself. I just feel like I get better and I have fewer concerns, but I'm not necessarily feeling like an expert ever. Because my kids are constantly throwing me for a loop. Like this year is going to be the first year that I'm a mother of a teenager. Definitely not an expert at that. So we'll see, though. We'll see how things go. Um, but I'm always open to what's out there, what's new, what's different, and going to be helpful. But yeah, these lives are definitely a two-way street. From my perspective, I'm never like I got it all together. How many kids do you have? I have 3 kids. We're going to be doing first grade, fifth grade, and eighth grade this year for our school year. You feel way more knowledgeable coming into your second year of homeschooling. Oh, for sure. For sure. That's the thing, is like you just get incrementally better, but I don't know that I would ever bestow upon myself the title of expert. This will probably never happen. You said you've done both, currently 3 girls, independent, and 1 virtual private high school, Forest Trails Academy. Okay, see, I agree with raising wolves. It's just going to depend on how your kid is thriving. If you want to independently homeschool, would it be doable if your bonus kids are away from you? Um, hmm. don't know. That could be, I guess it depends on your schedule. Like, how often do you see them? And you want to make sure that all parents are on board. And when they're away from you, that they're going to continue to do what you're doing. Because if they're going to derail you while they're away, that could be a problem. I feel like that's a very unique situation. I want to say that it could be possible, but it's going to take, everyone involved, all the adults involved being on the same page. So that's a tough one to answer just like right off the bat, but it could be possible. But you just want to make sure everybody's on board. You just renewed your HSLDA. Oh, cool. Yeah, I haven't renewed in a while. I continue to get their emails. Like I just got an email this morning from them that said their teacher IDs are 50% off with a promo code, but I haven't joined. Haven't paid my dues in a while. Oops. You're feeling overwhelmed already. Yours are 2 and 3. Oh, well, 2 and 3 is an overwhelming age, though. Like your kids aren't quite at that level of being independent yet. So you're still doing everything for them. So that's just an overwhelming time. But I can just assure you, it does get easier. It gets better as they become more independent and they're more involved in the decision making with you. So you don't feel like every decision that has to be made is on you. Like decision fatigue is real, y'all. And I feel like at no point is decision fatigue more than at the birth through 5 years old age. Like, so you're in the thick of it right now, having to make all the decisions and do all the things. So just life is overwhelming at that age. So I totally get that. You said you've been thinking hard about homeschooling. How do you do it? Ooh, Dee. Such a open, like big question. How do you do it? It's like a philosophical question. Some days I honestly don't know. Routines help. Routines help tremendously. Like creating one. Where did I put my thing? Where did I put my paper? Oh, it's over here. So, creating and establishing a routine and trying to stick with it is extremely helpful. Like we have a calendar as well that we follow for our weeks on and our weeks off. So like today is the first day of our semester. However, I spend a lot of time with my kids encouraging them to be independent. So right now they're working independently without me. That's why I can be on these lives with you guys. And then afterwards, I will check what they've gone over. Also, we're unschooling, and I'm rolling my eyes a little bit because I'm a type A structured person. I would prefer to see like workbook work pages being done, but right now they're watching a documentary in the other room. So they've chosen that. Like my son today said he wanted to learn how TVs were made. That's what he's learning today. But that takes time, that takes consistency, and just being open to all the resources that are out there too to help you so that you're not having to do every single thing on your own. So that's how I do it. I don't know. I hope that was a helpful answer. What was your reason behind homeschooling? Ultimately, I didn't want my kids' education to be tied up with where we chose to buy a house. Like I wanted to give them the best of both. And that's what led to us selecting homeschooling. And then, like I said, I've said before, what keeps us homeschooling is just the freedom that comes along with it, the freedom to tailor make their education to them and their interests. So thank you for that question. I know that one gets asked quite a bit, but yeah, it's just, if you're talking about, how do you do it? How do you get started? I do have a video series in my profile where I talk through like the steps of how to get started, like paperwork wise. But if you were talking in more like a philosophical, how do you do it? that's kind of where I'm at. Unschool your mind. Yeah, I do need to unschool my mind. I'm still very much wrapped up in the public school mindset. It's hard to break out of that. How do you do it is a loaded question. It is. But for sure, routines help. I mean, the paperwork for Georgia is very simple. So I don't even necessarily consider that a big deal. Like you can literally do the paperwork to homeschool in 2 minutes. So that part is easy. But then setting up how you want to keep your records and how you want to, like, what schedule you're going to have, that all comes down to you and what you want to do and what's best for your family. And sometimes I think about like offering like as a service for me to help you do that, like help you put your schedule together. Like we would talk one-on-one or something, and like I help you put it together and help you find some things that might work best for you. But ultimately, it's still going to come down to you doing it and implementing it and seeing how it works. Because we can make schedules all day. It's not going to be any good if it doesn't actually work for your family and you have to go in and change things. But I've thought about that. My mom consistently, like weekly at least, tells me I should. I'm just like, Mom, I could make anyone a schedule. That's not the hard part. It's the implementation that would actually have to happen. And I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, I spent this money, having a schedule made and it doesn't even work for us, because you're going to have to try it out. But I love spreadsheets and making schedules. That's what I do all the time. You said you homeschool too, but you also teach your kids how to cook, auto mechanics, and woodwork. Yes, exactly. Exactly. It has to be a well-rounded approach, in my opinion. It shouldn't just be, the academic subjects, the scholastic subject. It should be a well-rounded education. That was the hardest part for you with homeschooling, was not stressing over the public school ways. Yes, I'm still stuck in it, y'all. Do you have a class pet? Yes, we do. We have a cat, and we have a fish. We at one point had a hamster, but we no longer have a hamster. And it's not because of the cat. The hamster came before the cat. But yes, we definitely have a class pet. And what's so funny about our cat is she will come and sit on their schoolwork, and the kids will be like, well, it's time for a break. And I'm like, no, no, no. So yes, we definitely have a class pet, and she's funny. You said, yes, schedules are great. I agree. You'll be my guinea pig. I will. I'm still thinking about it. Honestly, I'm like, I just want, my whole thing is I try to give you guys what I would have wanted. Number one, which is more info for less money, like free. um, and I just never want anyone to feel like they spent money with me and it was a waste. That would be like, I wouldn't want that. I would always want you to feel like it was money well spent. So we'll see. You got to find one of those What Your First Grader Needs to Know books. Ah, yes, I do have that book. I actually found mine at a thrift store, I think, because I didn't buy all of those books. I bought some, but then I also thrifted some. Okay, cool. I think I'm caught up in the QA. You think you just stress yourself trying to push those teachings? Yeah, I definitely do. It's so hard. Like right now, this unschooling thing. Because in my mind, unschooling feels like no schooling. But I keep trying, I have to translate that in my brain. It says, no, unschooling is life schooling. Right now, my kids are learning in a way that they would learn in real life as an adult. They have to select what they're interested in and find the resources. Now, I have filled our home with resources to support them, but this is child-led learning time, and I have to back off and not feel like I have to push. Like later today, we're going to play Pictionary, and we're going to use, let me show you guys what we're going to use to play Pictionary. And then we've been doing read alouds. Like my husband and I too have been reading aloud lately. Like we do a chapter a day, and our kids see that too. We read together. My husband and I are reading a book together. But so these are word tiles, and we're going to use the nouns, which are the blue ones, to play Pictionary. So like wheels, book, house. So that's something that we'll do all together, which is fun for my older two because they love art, but also great for my son because we're working on sight words with him. So, but that's going to be an unschooling activity. We're just going to play the game as long as they want to play it. So yeah, it's tough to unschool, like deschool my own brain. But we just have to get it. Yes, the word tiles are on my Amazon list. Yes, they sure are. And you can use these in many different ways. Like you can use them like sight words. You can use them to teach the parts of speech because they are color coded based on the parts of speech here. So it's like nouns, verbs, adjectives, and then the other parts of speech, like other words, are in yellow. So you can, print off something like this and have your older kids identify which part of speech the yellow ones are. Lots of different ways you can use those. So I've had these for years. I really like those. Um, one question from, oh shoot, let me go to the QA. Hold on. How did you get through the learning to read phase? Whoo! Just be consistent. Like if you've taught your kid to ride a bike, or if you've potty trained your kid, it just takes consistency, like doing it every day, multiple times a day. Encouraging them, everything that's around them that has words on them, encouraging them to read it. So yeah, just be consistent. Don't take any days off. Even if they're just reading the closed captions on their shows, like just keep at it. I feel like all of my kids learned to read in different ways, but all of it was just consistency. You haven't seen anyone's link tree for 2 weeks. What? Okay, well then it's on my Instagram too. The same link tree is on my Instagram as well. Why are they doing that? So weird. Which book are you reading aloud right now? Oh, we're reading a Sherlock series. It's called the Cthulhu series by James. Is it Lovegood? James Lovegood. So yeah, good times. I'm a big Sherlock fan. Is it? No, I think it's Love Grove, not Lovegood. Love Grove. James Love Grove. It's a 3-series book. It's a 3-series. It's a trilogy. Womp womp. I can't talk. There's one question from Cultured Travel for you. Okay, let me go back up. Cultured. Where is it? I'm not seeing Cultured Travel for you. If you saw the question or if you can remember what it was, let me know. Oh, your daughter responds differently to me teaching her as opposed to tutors. How can you change it? Good question. So that one might just come down to how old is your daughter, by the way? Because before I just start talking like your daughter is very young. If you're still in here, I hope. How old is your daughter? Because for me, what helped to shift things for my kids was I really had to help them understand why it matters. And I didn't want them to look at me as the teacher as so much as I'm here to help you teach yourself. And once I kind of changed that thought process, and first of all, it took some pressure off me because now I don't have to feel like I've got to wear 2 hats. I'm just here to help you teach yourself, because that's real life. After high school, we're all teaching ourselves. Even in college, part of that, you're teaching yourself. So that could help, just explaining that this is why you should care. She's going to be in the 4th grade. Okay. So yeah, I would say that's old enough to understand like the difference between ignorance and intelligence, and just explaining to her like the people that you see living their best life, doing whatever they want to do with whenever they want to do it, because that's usually around that age where they just want to do what they want to do. People who are truly free to do what they want to do, they put in the time and effort first to make sure they had all their resources in place, like their finances in place, their housing and all that situation, all that in place. And just sometimes you just got to talk it through and tell them like, this is how much it costs to rent an apartment. This is what utilities cost. This is what it costs. If you want to drive on your own, this is what a car costs. This is what tires cost. This is what an oil change, like, break it down for them and explain to them, like, this is what it's going to take for you to do what you want. Now, if you want to just be taken care of by other people, then you're going to have to do what they say. And when I explained it that way to my kids, they were like, oh, I don't want to do what people say. So I've got to educate myself and learn all this. And that had a tremendous effect on them caring more about their education, because I said to them, like, I'm good. I've got my house. I've got my car. If you want to stay here for the rest of your life and just live with me and do what I say, you can do that. I'm not kicking you out. I'm not going to have you be homeless, but you're going to be limited to what you can do. I'm not going to let you drive my car. You're going to have to get a car. Or, you're not going to just come and go as you please in my house. You're going to have a curfew. And so when you say it that way to them, then they're like really much more motivated. It's like, no, I don't want to do what my mom says forever. I have to learn so that I can have my own, have my freedom. I was like, freedom is expensive. And that's basically just how I broke it down to them. Like, if you want freedom, like freedom to come and go as you please, freedom to work when you want to work, that's going to cost either in intelligence or in money, and sometimes both. So, yeah, just, giving them that reality check so that they know, like, what I'm providing for you is out of my love for you. What the world provides for you is absolutely nothing. And you're going to have to know how to, handle your business, how to, because I think most kids, especially if they've always grown up with it, they just expect that that's just what exists for everyone. Sometimes you have to literally show them, like, not everyone has a car. So people who don't have cars, they get around on the subway, or they pay for Uber, or they pay for a bus ticket. Sometimes you really have to illustrate it for them. Like, my kids have always grown up with me and my husband having cars, but I had to explain to them, like, our neighbors across the street, they have one car. So when, the husband wants to leave, the wife either has to go with him or stay home. Like, they don't have two cars. And then also just explaining how, public transportation works in cities. For their grandmother didn't always have a car. She had to ride the bus, and she would have to get to the bus at the time that, or get to the bus stop at the time that the bus stop was going to be there. Otherwise, she didn't have a ride. So she was not free to come and go as she wanted to. She had to operate on the bus's schedule. And just explaining that to them, I think, was extremely helpful. So now for my kids, they don't wait for me to teach. They will come in and do it themselves. So that's what I would suggest. I know that was a bit bit long and a bit rambly, but yeah, just explain to them, like, if you want freedom, you're going to need to also want to be intelligent and be able to educate yourself so that you can be, because otherwise you're going to be dependent on people. And that means you have to come and go when other people say. And usually that works. Once they realize, like, oh, shoot, if I want to drive somewhere, I'm going to need a car, and a car costs this, not just the car payment, but the gas, the oil, the white, the what do you call it? The fluids that they use to type off, the antifreeze. If you want air conditioning in that car, like, all those things, go into it, and take your kids with you to get an oil change. I take my kids with me all the time when there's vehicle maintenance. I take them to the car wash. Like, yes, insurance. We talked about car accidents, because there was one time I was training to be an Allstate agent for the company that I was working for. I didn't stick with Allstate, but my kids were right over my shoulder learning what it takes to, you know, file a claim for insurance. So, and also my husband hit a deer. So I was able to use that as a lesson to walk them through, an insurance claim. Cause I was saying to, because of the insurance we have, we were able to get a rental car like right away. The same day that my husband hit the deer, he was able to get a rental that same day. And my kids were with me that whole time. Like, nothing is off limits in terms of what I will use to teach my kids how the world works. And that's another reason why I have such a hard time answering the curriculum question, because I use everything and everyone in our life to get the lesson across, whether that's, good or bad. So if you're in our life and you're messing up, you're going to be part of the curriculum, because I'm going to say, you see how this is working out for this person. Everybody and everything is fair game in our homeschool, including my mother. She has been used several times as an example of, just things that she's done and accomplished in her life. So, yeah, fair game. Our life is the curriculum. So, yeah, I agree with you, Lady Dragon. Yeah, take them on a bus, a taxi, or any public transportation. Yep, let them see that this is what you would need to do if you didn't have a car. Exactly. Let them see it up close. Because again, I think a lot of times, if you've always had it their whole life, they just think this is what life comes with. And sometimes you really do just got to break it down and say, no, 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 all of this was earned. So yeah. And then just having conversations too. Like, y'all, we've had so many conversations over a game of Uno, or over a game of just any board game. And just explaining, like, how life really works. I agree. Yes, the varied ways to teach is what makes homeschoolers more well-rounded and more independent. Again, I'm able to do these lives with you guys because my kids know I'm not going to be breathing down their neck about their own education. That's for them. I've used so many analogies, but one that I think of is like the treasure box. And I say every time they learn something, it's just more jewels in your treasure box that you can use later in life. If you don't want to learn anything, I'm not going to, browbeat you into this. I've tried that. It doesn't work. We all end up miserable when I did that. But I will fill this home with lots of resources that you yourself can come and grab and utilize and expand your own knowledge. So right now, my middle child, she just started teaching herself the clarinet, and she is so proud because I was like, I literally can't teach you this instrument. I played the flute, the piano, the saxophone, and a little guitar. But if you want to learn the clarinet, I will buy you the reeds, I will buy you the books, the finger chart. We can go online and find you a teacher. And she is now teaching herself the clarinet. Now, once she has been practicing a bit, we may invest in actual lessons for her to go somewhere with someone, so that she can be even more advanced. But yeah, that's not on me. I even told her, if you want to learn the clarinet, you'll be teaching yourself. Can I ask how many hours in the day is school? 4.5 for us. 2 hours in the morning and 2.5 hours in the afternoon, typically. But really, it's all day. It's really just all day, all the time. They're always learning. And there's not always a test or an assessment, but they're always learning. You just learned science for 8th grade. So I do have a resources list in my profile if you want to go check that out. That has a bunch of resources for all grades, all subjects.